Rudy Delafiore, Kirsten Erlinson,
and over here.
Pam Barrington, Carrie Paulina, Drew Golphin,
Marlboro.
Jessica Hall,
Hebert,
Amy Romanchuk, Scott Soyette,
Andover.
Heather Summer,
Hebert,
Lisa Todd,
Hebert,
Yusuf Ahmed,
Yusuf Ahmed Jr. Penn.
and Avery Sophie.
And Rudy Delafiore is on from Hebron remotely.
Thanks, Rudy.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Hebert, Andover, and Marlboro community engagement and attendance at BOE public meetings is welcomed. The public comment segment of the meeting agenda is set aside so the BOE may receive public comments. Procedurally, public remarks will be limited to 3 minutes, and citizens will be asked to identify themselves and the town they are from. Because the BOE is limited by the Freedom of Information Act to discussing only matters on the agenda, the BOE is not permitted to engage in a discussion of the comments presented. Is there anybody that would like to make public comment? Anyone online that would like to make public comment? Okay. Last chance. All right, is there any board members need to add or delete any agenda items? Okay, that will bring us to the student representative reports.
So in the month of March, we have our spring concert coming up soon this Wednesday. A couple of college visits for later this week and further in the month. And recently, these past weeks, we've had at the high school, we've had the Wednesday musical playing on the 5th to the 7th. And just last week, Thursday, we had our second blood drive in the school year. And so not much events during this month, but as for seniors, a lot of us are hearing back from a lot of colleges and deciding our campus decisions.
A couple other stuff that took place was the Becca State Conference, where there were 7 people that placed and 5 people are going to the international conference. A lot of the seasons are ending now for the winter sports, and the spring sports are starting. And finally, there was the Naviance for the juniors, where they talked about colleges. They help them get what they do.
A few weeks ago, we had our pep rally. We also had a day of unplugging where total, I don't remember if it was middle school and high school, but 3,627 hours with no electronics. There was a unified basketball game on Wednesday last week in the middle school. Won the Adams Family production, which was very good. I like to go see it. Next week we have SBAC testing. There's a spring sports informational meeting, and next week there's also a school dance that's going to be posted by the 7th grade.
Okay, great. Was the unplugging day for both the high school and the middle school? I'm not sure that my child. Dawn, Mike Bollier is here. Okay, and that brings us to the BOE chair report. I just have one thing that I wanted to share. Dr. McNamara and I went to CABE Day on the Hill. CABE is the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education. And we gathered at first at the Bushnell to understand what kind of legislation is being discussed that would impact schools. It basically came from 3 committees: the Education Committee, the Labor Committee, and the Transportation Committee. So they went through what these bills are all about, what position they were taking. It got a little interesting a couple of times. Even the boards of ed are not always in agreement with each other. It's also really kind of interesting when you've got boards that are regional and boards that are not regional that can impact. But for the board members, I did bring a handout if you wanted to take one. We can also email it to the folks online. But it was kind of interesting to see what is up for discussion and how it would impact us. And then, after our learning session, there was march over to the Capitol where you could have appointments with your legislators and advocate for your position. So that's what I've got. Colin, you're up.
Yeah, great. So just a few things that I want to share this evening. I'll start with saying that March is actually Board of Education Appreciation Month. So I wanted to thank all of our board members for the contributions that you make to our school district and community. Obviously I'm here every day and here for these meetings because it's part of my job, and you all are here out of your voluntary service. I appreciate the student board members who take their time on their busy Monday nights. And we just have a small token of appreciation for everybody. I will. And for board members that are attending remotely, for board members that are attending remotely, we will make sure that we get these. Just a little RAM swag for you all to enjoy and hopefully use. A couple of other things that I want to note in my report is I want to congratulate the students and staff who were involved in Addams Family, the musical, which was it last week? It was last week. It was phenomenal. Two of our staff members here that were integral into the production are here with us. So I appreciate the work that you did, McKiernan did, as well as all of our students. It was a wonderful show, absolutely fantastic. It's great seeing the talents of our students that we don't get to see them display every day. So that was a really great event. I want to congratulate and thank Kathy Green and members of the medical careers program at the high school. Last week, they had a blood drive and collected 81 pints of blood. Unfortunately, I had made a donation about 6 weeks ago, and apparently it's an 8-week window. So Kathy wasn't happy with me because I donated to another place instead of donating to RHAM. Kathy, I'll do my best to do better next time, I promise. It's pretty amazing when you think about the fact that each donation of a pint can save up to 3 lives. It's a pretty cool thing that Kathy and her students do that work multiple times every year. We have concluded the end of our winter sports season. We had a lot of successful student athletes this year. Both our boys and girls basketball team made it to the second round of the state tournament, which is fantastic. We're certainly happy for them. Their success. We had a wrestler who actually earned all-state honors, Brooke Heffernan. She competed in the and actually won the state championship in the 107 weight class and went on to compete in the New England Wrestling Championships. Cheer competed at the both conference and state level, and Noah Hoffman received all-state honors. Both our boys and girls hockey team had success. The girls team made it to the semifinal game of the CCC tournament. And all of our RHAM boys players earned their varsity letter this season. I also want to highlight our co-ed swimming students who participate with Manchester. They had 7 swimmers compete this year with the Manchester co-op team. We had a student win all-state. Alejandro Shanfent won the state championship in the 50-meter freestyle. And we had a number of other students be successful. In fact, if you just saw the River East last Friday, there were brothers William and Beckett Krajewski, both competed very well in the states as well. And finally, boys and girls outdoor track also had a successful season. They had many students compete at the state championships, and one of our students, Brody Kukovsky, broke the RHAM school record in the long jump this year as well. A few other things to note. I wanted to highlight some real news that I just got today from one of our teachers is that 3 of our students who participate in our Youth Manufacturing Pipeline Initiative attended a job fair at Electric Boat in Groton. recently, and all three of the students have been offered and taken and accepted full-time jobs starting in July as structural welders. The Youth Manufacturing Pipeline Initiative is focused specifically on getting students ready for careers in the manufacturing industry. So it's great to see that our students and the program is having the success that it is. So I appreciate what Mr. Hanush and the members of the CTE are doing for that program. Another thing I wanted to just share and thank a staff member for is we recently hosted the like a regional invention convention each year. Our three sending elementary districts have students participate in the invention convention, and typically it's done just at their schools. But we decided to host it this year, and Mary Rose Mead did a significant amount of work partnering with our sending districts, and actually hosted that a couple of weeks ago, and it was a great success. And I appreciate the work that she did. You know, anytime that we have an opportunity to have RHAM as the center of the community and get members of the community in, I just think it's beneficial for everybody. We're also working right now to see if we can get Columbia involved for next year, because we think it'd be a great way to just continue to develop that partnership with Columbia students and families. A couple other things is after our board meeting last month in February 23rd, I did present our budget to the Marlboro Board of Finance. Went over very well. The Board of Finance, Drew, was there. I appreciate you being there to support the district. The Board of Finance from Marlboro was very supportive of the budget that we presented. They appreciated us coming in, being very fiscally responsible. And I will be presenting in Hebron tomorrow night. If anybody would like to be there, I think that meeting starts at 7. And the last thing I'll say as a part of my report is, and this is probably what I'm extremely excited about, is I think that I've reached the end of days where I have to wake up, and Eva gets up at 4:45 in the morning to figure out what we're doing for snow delays or closures. Sorry, kids, but I think we are past that at this point. We had a 2-week stretch where I think I woke up every day for at 4:45 to try to figure out what we're going to do on a given day. But I think it seems like we've gotten through the bad weather, and knock on wood, we'll not go back there until next winter. And that concludes my.
Well, that will bring us to the student program spotlight.
So we're very fortunate tonight that we actually have 2 programs to spotlight this evening. The first is actually, I appreciate Carrie Wilson, our middle school band teacher, being here with some of our wonderfully talented middle school musicians. These students have been preparing for the Coffee House, which is going to be coming up April 1st. It's a wonderful event. If you've never had a chance to come, I would highly encourage you to do it. I'll send out a reminder to board members. Where really it's an opportunity for our students to showcase their talents in the fine and performing arts. Ms. Wilson was great to gather some of our students who will be performing, and they're going to perform some songs for us. So, Ms. Wilson.
What makes this particularly a neat group for the preparation of it is the students have chosen who they want to play with. They've chosen the music that they want to perform, and you'll see a large group that was self-run, had nothing to do with it. They completely put it together themselves. So we'll have the first group sing along. This is Cameron, Aiden, Kyla, Sarah. You'll have a clue on what they're going to perform for you. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello, I'm Dean Perez. This is Aiden Thompson and Aiden Perez, and tonight we'll be performing for you Rising Dawn by Ocean.
Great job.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. We really appreciate you coming. You guys are great. Can't wait for the coffee.
And that's the next one.
Yeah, we'll give them a minute or two. And thank you, parents, for getting them here. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Kim. So our next student program spotlight is actually one that we had initially scheduled for our February meeting, but due to inclement weather, the students had said, if we can't do it in person, we prefer to, we didn't want to do it. They didn't do it online, which I appreciate, and I appreciate everybody being here and taking the time. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Burgess and Ms. Vega Boulay, who are the club advisors for our Model UN at the high school.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate the opportunity to come and speak. Lori and I have actually next to nothing to say. It's all so we'll let them introduce themselves and talk to you a little bit about Model UN. All right, so I'm Zach, and ever since the middle of the 20th century, the United Nations has worked to maintain peace and promote human rights among global countries. And basically, Model UN is a mock version of this. It's a product offered at RHAM High School, where everybody will act as diplomats from different world countries to solve those international challenges that countries face.
My committee that I worked on was recommendations of AI. So our goal was to discuss the moral, ethical, and legal implications of AI applied to warfare, specifically with automated weapon systems, which are systems that can work completely without any human interaction. And our problem that we had to solve was that Russia was developing these systems, and we had to work together to communicate these. My committee was access to our safety medical care, and our goal was to help families businesses and provide resources to ensure for example, the warned unfortunately to support children after a natural disaster.
My name is Jack, and me and my partner Zach, we're representing the Security Council, which is a little different from the rest of the United Nations. That's only 15 or 20 member countries. And we were representing France, and we were pursuing solutions to conflicts in Gaza, Sudan, and Syria.
One of the big things we do is we take a trip to New York City, and when we go about finding how our country would solve a certain issue, we do our preliminary research, but there's obviously holes in that research that the internet and we can't find on our own. So here we meet with real UN diplomats, and they will help us fill in those holes in our research to get like an inside perspective to see how they would solve it to better our own solutions. And we also have had tours of the UN headquarters to see what they actually work.
Okay, so I'm supposed to talk more about New York City. I think we're super fortunate to work with the Executive Wilderness Council because they actually get our tour all in order for that event. It's a little harrowing because we have to be here at like 5 a.m., but I think the end result was worth it. We had a lot of fun trying to decipher sort of the that I got from that. If you are looking for cheap apparel, go to the basement of the United Nations. This was like $25, which I think is ludicrous for any sweater. Well, not ludicrous, it should be not. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And then we also take a trip to the University of Hartford, where we meet with other delegations from around Connecticut, from approximately like 50 schools. And we work with them in our committees, obviously, and they propose solutions that we came up with, challenges faced by the world. And for example, the AI committee, which was discussed earlier, passed a resolution to invite technologically advanced nations to provide support to underdeveloped nations' AI capacity building in order to level the playing field, as well as the Security Council, who passed a resolution which facilitated international support for safety and security in Sudan, implemented sanctions for any group who supported illegal arms trade in Africa, and committed resources to support human rights for Sudanese.
Although we are at UART, we still practice RHAM skills and dispositions by practicing professional conduct and cultural sensitivity, using critical thinking skills to become more aware of global issues, practicing our debate skills and working on public speaking. It is also a largely run student club. Most of the work is done by our students, and we collaborate with students from diverse backgrounds to do what we need to do.
We also historically in the past we won best delegation award, and we also offer and we are super this. That's our background.
Do any of you think that you want to pursue something? Oh, go ahead and describe.
Oh, so
Yeah, there was a follow on to that question.
yeah, I mean, I initially really thought that I wanted to do architecture from high school. I actually presented to the board of education at a house building competition, and I was one of 3 students I think who came up with that, so that was fun. But I realized that it is really cumbersome, and I don't think that's a career path that I'm interested in taking. But like this club, has like opened my eyes to so many more interests that I have that I think is really nice. I do think I want to study political science, and I've been studying too long to be for 16 months. Keep it excited.
Are you a senior?
Yeah.
You committed? Not yet. Still thinking. Okay. Anybody else going to pursue?
I'm interested in this field. I mean, I like public speaking. I also like debating ideas and trying to, serve people and just try to get things passed. I don't know how well it's going. So yeah.
This is very interesting. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you guys very much. That's great. Thanks.
Okay. That brings us to the consent agenda, which is the approval of minutes to the February 23rd meeting, regular meeting, and the approval of policies after revision or deletion. Do you want to talk about
Yeah, so just again, the 2 policies that are up for approval, either revising one or deleting the other. I didn't get any feedback or commentary or questions on either one of those policies. So my recommendation to the board is to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so Don, that was Scott Soya first, Drew Goff at second. Any other discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Okay, motion passes, and that will bring us to new and unfinished business. 10.1 is the discussion of the audit.
So at our last meeting, there was some board members that had requested an opportunity to review the audit that had been completed by our auditing company, O'Connor and Davis. Catherine had been here at the last meeting, attended the last meeting in February to kind of review the audit at a very high level. And there were some questions that had come from some board members. So we thought it would be best to have Catherine be here again tonight. So she is available online, hopefully. And just to make herself available to answer any questions that board members may have in the hopes that we can have the audit accepted by the group. So questions for Catherine, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful. Thank you again for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. Are there any questions that people have for Catherine? Oh, you know what, Catherine, do you want to go through those questions maybe that you went through and responded to us for today?
Sure.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So a lot of the questions were about the fund balance and the 2% that the board or that the district is allowed to retain. So like we talked about at the last meeting, previously that 2% of your budget could only be spent on capital projects. Now with the change in the state statute, it's basically you can spend it on anything educational related. So since it's restricted to educational purposes, it's shown as restricted fund balance, but most of your expenditures are educational. So functionally the funds aren't really restricted. So I did provide a listing of what the funds are there for. The ones in the reserve for general education fund, there's about 1.1 million at 6/30/25. 693,000 is there for track replacement. 264,000 for the middle school baseball field ADA project. 48,000 for repair of athletic fields, and then 125,000 is currently unallocated. There was a question on the capital non-recurring fund that there was 300,000 left at 6/30/25. I know I talked to Eva about it, and the cash was transferred from the bank to the STIP account while the track project was being worked on. So it's being used to pay invoices in fiscal 26. The balance of the questions, I think, was about the general funds assigned fund balance of 2.7 million. So about 235,000 is your 2% that you can transfer into the Reserve for General Education Fund. The remainder of the balance is assigned as the district can't keep it. It just looks like a large balance because you don't immediately give it back to the town because you have to wait for the audit to make sure that your numbers are accurate. So it's about 2 years behind. So I know looking at the fiscal 26 budget, you have a total surplus of the 758,000, which is the credit offset in the fiscal 26 budget that relates to the fiscal 24 surplus. So you'll see this number change just depending on what your surpluses are each year, and then what gets offset back to the towns.
So we wrote a policy to have the 2% be used for capital non-recurring.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Unless 2/3 or
Correct. To do something different with it.
So I have a follow-on question, if that's okay, on the assigned funds. So there's 2.7 million there. So about a little over 2,000 is from this year's surplus, which we are going to keep, I think. We'll vote on that later. 758,000 was the offset from last year. So that gets us to about 1 million. What's the other 1.7 million?
The 758 is from fiscal 24.
Right.
So then the rest of your difference is going to be fiscal 25 surplus that'll then get applied in most likely fiscal 27's budget.
So there's a $1.7 million roughly that's going to end up being a credit offset in a future year. Is that what you're saying?
Right. It'll be in future years.
Well, how do we determine what years they are? Because I mean, the way I understood it was last year we had a surplus of about, make up the number, 1.3 million. We kept 625,599. I remember that for our 2%. The 758 presumably went into this fund. So the other 1.7 comes from earlier years. And so how do we decide how this money actually gets or used as an offset, because last year's offset, the 758 happened right, that part of that year. Right? Because I know my town is looking at the budget and seeing its portion of the 758 wasn't required in their town assessment. So this other 1.7, when does that happen?
I mean, I would say that's the management question when the offset will be used. And it's something we can certainly take a look at with them if there's portions from years prior to 2024 in there. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
So Catherine, if we wanted to take this offline and call you tomorrow with more detail on it, can we do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does anybody have any other questions for Catherine regarding the audit?
I have one more related. The 758 offset. Is there someplace we can see that in a financial statement in the audit?
It's not in the audit, no. It's just part of that fund balance amount.
Part of that fund balance. So there's hard for us to see that. But it's hard for us to then see how that impacts the revenue reaction.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing that.
Oh, I'm sorry. So we have revenue exhibits in the audit that show the town levies, but we don't see explicitly anywhere the offset. That just makes it a little challenging to find it.
That's something we can definitely look into for next year's audit, just breaking that out in the budget.
That would be great. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Anybody online? We're good. Yes, so do we have a motion that the Region 8 Board of Education accept the 2024-2025 budget audit?
So moved.
That was Mike Bollier in a second.
I'll second.
Jessica Hall was the second. Any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Okay, that motion passes.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine. Discussion and possible action regarding the allocation of the 2024-2025 surplus funds to the Reserve of Education Expenditure Fund. It is enclosure 10.2 in your packet.
Yeah, and so this is, Heather, you just touched upon this. We do have a Board of Ed policy 3432 that basically spells out that if surplus from the previous fiscal year exists after the completion of the audit, an amount up to 2% of the previous year's total budget can be placed in a non-lapsing account and used to pay for capital projects and maintenance of school buildings, facilities, and grounds. To the point that was also made earlier, it could be used for other educational expenditures, but it would require a 2/3 vote of the board in order for that to happen. The entire surplus amount of the 24-25 budget does not exceed 2% of last year's budget. As we've said, it's $235,000. So we are recommending that the entire surplus be placed into the non-lapsing educational expenditures account for future facilities projects.
Okay, do we have a motion to allocate the fiscal year 2024-2025 audited surplus amount totaling $235,121 for Reserve for Education Expenditure Fund?
So moved. That's it.
Scott Soya, a second. Second is Drew Golfin. Is there any other discussion on that?
I have a quick question. Sorry, but is this allocation already assumed or anywhere in the our lit position? That's on your enclosure 10A.
No.
No. Okay. It's totally separate,
totally
right? Yeah, good. That's what I thought. Just wanted to- Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry, you did the motion.
We have to-
All in favor? Lost my track. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Okay, the motion passes. That was fine. So now we're up to 10.3, the RAM generator project updates.
So there's just a few things that I wanted to provide an update to the board about with regards to this project. As I know, most board members are aware, the state awarded really collectively the town of Hebron, Andover, Marlboro kind of came together a few years ago, applied for a state grant, and were awarded a state grant to receive $2 million for the purpose of putting a generator to power the entire RHAM high school facility. The hopes actually was that initially it would power the entire school facility, so both the high school and middle school in totality. And the reason for the state awarding us this grant was because the fact it would then enable the school district to serve as a regional shelter for all three towns. Currently, we really are a shelter for the town of Hebron only, but our current generator really has limited capacity with what it can power. So we can serve as a shelter, but we have limited capacity for what we can power and not power. So in order to fully power the high school, again, we were awarded this $2 million grant. Unfortunately, where we are at this point is there's currently, and Michael can correct, Michael Schlehofer is on here, and Mal Lectern from the PBC might be on here as well. There's currently a $1.2 million shortfall to complete that project. And we don't have any indication that we would receive any additional state funding at this time to complete the project as it was initially planned and intended. So where we currently are, and this really just has come about in the past few weeks, is the project is being scaled back to do the following. We would replace our existing generator that is original to the reconstruction. So we have a 20-year-old generator, which we could get a new one. So it's beneficial to the district, obviously. And it would basically power the existing lights and systems that are powered with our current generator. And it's not because it doesn't have the capacity to power more. Actually, the generator that we are getting put in here has the capacity to power both schools in their entirety. The issue is the internal wiring and stuff that I just don't understand that has the additional cost in order for it to fully powered, if that makes sense.
Big extension cord.
Yeah, big extension cord. So we have a small one. Unfortunately, we need a bigger one. And unfortunately, the bigger one to power the entire high school is an additional $1.2 million. And on top of that, it would be additional funds that would be needed for us to power the middle school in its entirety. This has never been a project where the district had any anticipation or plans to put any money into. We were excited certainly to get a new generator that has the capacity, has an increased capacity. But we basically are at a point where we're basically going to be able to power everything that's currently powered. Michael, am I missing anything there? Or Mal Lectern from the PBC? I think you were planning on being here as well. Am I missing anything?
No, Colin, you said it very well.
Thanks. So, they're going to start doing the work relatively soon. The first part is doing some excavation. The pad and the generator are actually going to go in between kind of where adjacent to our loading dock area is. There's an area where there's an incline and a tree. They're going to do some excavation, put a concrete pad, run some conduits and wires from that area. And then eventually when the generator is ready, Michael, how far out is the generator from actually being we're a ways out, correct?
End of May, beginning of June, it's scheduled to be at the riggers.
Okay. So we've got some work to do until the generator would get put in place. One of the things that we've talked about is communicating with our state representatives to see if there could potentially be some additional funding provided by the state. There has been already some communication with state representatives. I think there could be a benefit for me to work on drafting a communication that can be sent to the legislature on behalf of the board. I'd certainly run it by Heather and make sure it's okay with, meets the standards that you guys are comfortable with regards to communication. I also think it would be beneficial to communicate with our three sending towns. If they really want RHAM High School to serve as an emergency shelter for all three towns, I think I need to first inform them. I don't know how well informed they might be that we are not going to really be able to do that with the change, with the unforeseen change that we find ourselves facing right now. Who knows? Maybe there can be a more of a long-term plan to say, is there a way for towns to help out with funding? Bringing this project to completion the way it was initially intended. That kind of, I wanted to just let everybody know that's kind of where we currently are. Obviously, it's disappointing because of the fact it's not quite what we were hoping for. But again, I'm excited to at least have the capacity to get us online in the future, and I'm certainly glad that we're getting a brand new generator as opposed to a 20-some-odd-year-old one. Questions, Michael or I could do our best to try to answer them.
I was still confused on the plan was there. What changed? Just the prices of things?
Cost of generator, cost of the work in order to all of the internal work that needs to be done with switches and wiring that would need to be done is the primary.
The prices of those things have just gone up a lot.
Correct. And that's the unfortunate thing is right now I'm saying that to that point exactly. So right now I'm saying we're $1.2 million short for us to get the generator that's going to get installed to bring it online for just the high school. Right now we're saying it's $1.2 million. In a year or two or three when it could be greater than that. And then for us to find ourselves in a situation where we want to power the middle school completely, it could be even more than that. So again, I don't really have a solution. I just wanted to present the situation where we currently find ourselves to you all and let you know what I think we should do with regards to communication with the stakeholders about this.
Well, in terms of emergency management, three towns that might take advantage of that, would some of the approach you use with them include perhaps the cost of bonding projects that the towns? I know several of the three towns where it's all pretty plan on doing some bonding. Split that up among the three towns and part of the bond. It could be.
Yeah, I mean, my intention is to communicate, have written communication with town managers and boards of selectmen. I would certainly avail myself to go and be a part of a meeting, answer questions that they might have, brainstorm ideas as to how we can potentially solve this issue. Again, I know Hebron because the Hebron Public Building Commission has had all oversight over this project. This is not a RHAM project, and Michael Schlehofer and I attend meetings. Mike Sharon and now Rudy attend as representing the Board of Education, but this is really a PBC project. So I don't even know how much the town of Andover knows. I don't know how much the town of Marlborough knows about kind of where we currently are. But in order for us to even qualify for this funding in the first place, or I should say for the funding to be given, there had to be resolutions and agreements between the three towns saying, yes, it's something that we want to do moving forward. So I really think the first step for me is to communicate with all three towns and say, this is where we are. And then again, communicate with state legislators to see if there's any assistance that can be provided.
That will bring our next, if anybody has any last questions for. Okay. That will bring us to artificial intelligence use in reaching.
Yeah, so certainly not for, she describes warfare. That was a little intimidating. So in your board packet is enclosure 10.4, and this is just a memo that I wanted to share with the board about kind of where we are and where we see ourselves going with regards to the use of artificial intelligence in the district. We've been really working on this, I'd say, for about a year and a half, 2 years-ish. It's kind of crazy when you think about how quickly AI has just emerged and really just consumed a lot of areas of our lives. I know I use it for a lot of things, everything from helping draft memos to coming up with dinner ideas. It's a pretty powerful tool. But one of the things that I wanted to do is share kind of where we currently are and where we see ourselves going with regards to the use of AI. So I won't regurgitate everything that's in this memo, but Mary Rose Mead is joining us this evening, as well as Nicole Daigle, our library media specialist for the district. They have been working as a part of the group that has been looking at different tools. And really that was the first step, was the exploring of AI tools and platforms to utilize and bring in districts. There's a lot of them out there. They're emerging and changing on a regular basis. And ultimately where we landed, it was in the beginning of this school year where we engaged in a contract with a company called School AI. School AI is a platform that we ultimately identified. And again, there were a lot of different ones out there, and primarily School AI was identified because I'll use the term guardrails, Mary Rose and Nicole. I think that's a good way to put it. School AI has guardrails that other AI platforms don't have. It's to create opportunities for students, I should say decrease opportunities for students to use AI in a way that it's not intended to be used, right? And whereas if you just go into ChatGPT or even Google Gemini, you could say, write me a paper that says X, Y, and Z, and it'll spit it out. Whereas if I'm not mistaken, you put a prompt like that into School AI and it'll say,
instead, that for you, but where would you like to start? And it engages. And that was School AI and Magic Store both once it emerged from the state pilot program. It was done 2 years ago. The research around that. Yeah. And this particular platform was the only one just actually built with teaching students ethical and effective use from the field. So this company is local educators, and so that was something that we knew was important. Again, we thought we need to know how to use it. It has to be in safe space. School AI also will, unlike any of the other things going on.
Mary Rose, I want to go to Mike.
Oh,
sorry. And Miss Daigle too, because I'm sure they'll have questions.
Yes, School AI has historically something we chose it because it was designed with students in mind. The other feature that it has that none of the other three items that Oregon Gemini has is if a student makes a comment that is dangerous or self-harming or concerning, the teacher is flagged with that. So there's also that extra piece there. Also, it works in concert with Google Classroom, so teachers can see what's happening. They can pop into the students' chat and see how they're utilizing the resource. And Greg Chance is our now chair. We've been looking at now specific AI tools, some of which look really expensive. We got a very good deal to try School AI this year, and the fees are not super high like some of these other ones. And so we provided some training. We have some training actually on Friday. We were over 55 faculty have signed in surveys throughout the year to see how teachers are doing with it. And our faculty reflect the worldview as well. Some everyone's and others are so much to the ways they can utilize it effectively and ethically. And I would say what we talked a lot about, the state of Connecticut adopted the Common Sense Media's digital literacy curriculum. And that we know how important it is that students are ethically engaged in it. This is a platform that we would actually, this is guardrails that doesn't allow them to do things that are but it's a big, fast-moving technology, and I think in addition to wanting to make sure our students know how to use it, because the constant quote that keeps coming back is AI is not going to replace people in jobs, but people who know how to use AI, how to replace people that don't. And so just ensuring that our students know what it is. They know how to use it, but do they know how to use it ethically and effectively, with integrity? That's something I think we have responsibility to teach them. So that's been part of our process. Nicole has been great. She's one person. She's trying to do LMS and other things and curation and programming, but we're also working on trying to support AI education. And the other piece that's very important to me, you heard about the election cause to Nicole posted that weeks ago. Digital wellness is something that's really important. He's a wonderful person at PrEC. He runs workshops on this. This is something we also have to have as part of our conversation with our students, is the importance of going away from technology. So we're moving and exploring and working to understand it, teach our students the effects of it. We certainly don't want to undo their critical thinking. We don't want them to utilize it as a replacement for their thought. And if they do so, we want them to understand its limitations as well. And really takes away from the voice of the person who's trying to be right. So it's a lot more.
So what I would say, I as Mary Rose said, and I even said earlier, like this is a fast movement. Like this is just moving very quickly. And I've always been one and to really, when you have these things that are happening very rapidly, is to approach them very slowly and deliberately. Because I think that if you just jump on things, you're not taking very specific, deliberate steps in order to make sure that you're doing it the right way. It's evolving so quickly that if you do things like set a policy on something that is very specific for AI, within 2 months, that policy could be outdated because the technology has changed. One of the things that I mentioned in my memo was, one of the things that the administrative team did very, very early on with the onset of AI was we revised our plagiarism language not in our policy handbook, but in our student handbook to really incorporate language around the use of AI. And if you're using AI and you're doing it wholly in part and you're not citing it, then you're plagiarizing. So now what I think that we need to do, particularly because we've also worked on this position statement, which was generated by staff here in the district. And again, I appreciate the work that Mary Rose did in spearheading, bringing this committee together and developing this AI position statement. Is I really felt like we needed that position statement to help guide us, right? Because if we just said, hey, we're going to put language here, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, well, then we're going to be scattered in a variety of different directions. Whereas if we have this position statement that was created by staff, it wasn't Mary Rose and I sitting down in a vacuum. I mean, it was actually primarily teachers. I think it was 3 or 4 administrators, and and not only was it just people who were, hey, we're embracing AI. We actually intentionally put the committee together with a combination of people who were very skeptical and indicated that skepticism. We had done a survey of staff and their feelings about it. We had actually looked, you could track to see how many people are engaging with school AI, so we could see who was using it and who wasn't. And Mary Rose and I sat down in my office. We were like, oh, this person's not really using it that much. Let's make sure they're a part of this conversation. Oh, this person's using it a bunch. Let's make sure and we really had a very balanced group of skeptics and people that were using it heavily to develop that position statement. And again, now that we have that, we're focused on providing professional development so that teachers can develop their competency and their capacity to use it, much in the same way, just with the advent of instructional technology in general. And now I feel like we can move forward with starting to look at policies that exist, like appropriate use of technology, right? We have a policy about appropriate use of technology. Well, we need to incorporate some language into that policy about the use of AI. And that really is what I see us moving towards as we continue to, again, build the capacity and build the competency of teachers and staff so that they can start to use it when they feel comfortable doing so. This isn't a mandated thing. It's not a forced thing. We have teachers that are feeling comfortable with it. We have teachers that are not. And we're like, that's okay. We just want you to feel like you are moving forward in a direction that you're comfortable with.
It's so hard to not be reactive to something that keeps coming at us so fast, but to Colin's point, when you're reacting to something, you end up reading things without a lot of forethought and without a lot of voice. And Nicole was part of our committee. She's also running a professional learning workshop this Friday around prompting and AI, which is something that we took out of a couple of different professional development workshops. It's hard to not keep reacting, and there's a lot of emotions from this. Some people are all in, and some people are really afraid of it. And every single voice is really valid, and every feeling is really valid. So I just feel like I know that people wanted us to go faster and send out a statement of things that are worked together as a committee, creating that statement that all voices was really important, and being able to go very thoughtful decisions we're making is really important as well.
Just a little bit, just that one of the things that came out of our conversations, and it is here in the position statement, is the teachers felt overwhelmed that we wanted to make sure we emphasize that it's not going to replace the human connection. It's not going to replace human creativity. The teacher-student connection, all of those things in the policy is that we still recognize that is the core of education and AI at the school. So that really came out of the conversations with all the teachers, and I feel like everyone, even no matter how they felt about AI, we all agree. Everyone agreed on that piece. So that I think.
We've been talking a lot. Are there any questions that board members might have?
Thank you for including so many teachers.
I want to apologize. I got here and opened up my computer to find an email. I thought I sent you with my comments earlier. I never sent it. I think we do need to talk policy. I'm afraid of spreading it through our policy manual for the exact reason that everything's changing so fast. But I also think I love the statement you guys wrote. It's wonderful. I think we should incorporate something like that in board policy. Something flexible, but also the point. Hey, we want to use this, but not abuse it. But I think we need to address that. Three of the policy committee members are here. I guess we have more soon. They're joining us. But
Didn't you just say that you were going to be incorporating AI into?
Yeah. So I don't think that they're based off of Mary Rose and I. You know, a ton of professional development in this area. There's actually another one. We went to an AI summit for education. It was sponsored by the Connecticut State Department of Education. I think it was almost a year ago.
Yeah.
Pretty close to a year ago. And basically there's not like a, you need to do this approach. Like I don't consider myself to be an expert in this area in any way, shape or form, but I talk to a lot of people with a great deal of knowledge and expertise in comparison to what, and the people that I spoke with said, there's two ways that you could approach it. You can have a single AI policy, or you could take it and you can kind of interweave, you could kind of put it out into the policies from a high level general standpoint so that it can hold up even as things change and evolve. And that would be my recommended approach is to say, well, where does it fit in? Where, as I said, appropriate use of technology. It fits in potentially into the student discipline policy. It fits in because we've dealt with that at the student level with students using it inappropriately. And we've levied consequences as a result. There also is an approach, and I know some districts have done it, of nope, we're going to write an AI policy as a district. Ultimately, that's up to the board and what the board wants. I take guidance and direction from you all. But my feeling is if we take it and we put it out into the applicable policies where we feel it's appropriate and necessary, that to me, because what I do is when I deal with issues, I look at policy. Like if one of the school administrators contacts me and says, hey, this is something that's just happened, can we talk about what's the best way to deal with it? I'll say, well, what does the policy have to say on that specific topic? And,
A lot of districts, that's the direction many districts are going. As we were doing our committee work, we were sort of looking at what are other school districts doing in terms of that. Very few had a board policy, and we just looked at all of that. But a lot of schools have what we had created the position statement. I think to Colin's point, having things embedded within policies affected by it versus maybe it's fine. this is my little pal 2001 situation, but I don't want to give it more. I don't want to give it more power or value than we would give to a Microsoft Word or maybe like because it is an instructional technology, it's a tool. There's parts of it that will impact your plagiarism, etc. I hesitate to give it its own little world because I don't want it to take on more of a role than it really needs to. It's just hard to see.
That's what Colin said in the note. I had that same suggestion, and I'm suggesting that because it's moving so fast, scattering it through our manual is going to be a problem because then we're going to have this one out of date with that one and this one here. And well, we updated that policy, but these other three still need to be done. I'm worried about that because the AI world is changing so fast. That's the reason I would think centralized. But I also think this is probably a discussion for the policy committee rather than the whole board first. So I would like to get that on the policy committee agenda to talk about this.
Yeah.
It's definitely some more because it's an emerging and growing technology part of school. But it's
Well, I had a question. This, by the way, this is excellent. This is statement, but you know, we purchase school AI. But how do we regulate or encourage students not to use another AI product and bring it into the classroom somehow? Is there a way?
Well, we don't have Gemini turned on for it's in the building. I think this goes back to what we were talking about with digital literacy curriculum, the idea of ethics, the idea of integrity. There are some teachers who are moving away from using Chromebooks for certain kinds of assessments. Somebody said to me, imagine if we didn't use Chromebooks, how many Blue Books we could buy. I mean, that's a little extreme, but that is one way of thinking to ensure that our students are creating authentic, original, self-created material. It's a challenge. It is.
So there's nothing that would prevent a student maybe getting on their parents' computer saying, to take your example, write me an essay on the Declaration of Independence, 250th anniversary, taking that essay written completely by ChatGPT or whatever, importing it somehow into the Google Chromebook, and then maybe going to school AI saying, here's my first draft.
It's happening.
Okay.
It's certainly a concern, and it's something that we're very aware of in the classroom. One of the things that we actually studied during the AI course in the are AI proof assessments, durable assessments. And so that is something that we teachers, where they're writing things that are, maybe it's something that they're creating in the classroom, or it's something where they have to present orally so that, and they're asked questions in a surprise way. So there are definitely people out there who are thinking about this. We've been learning about it. And the next step, I think, is to bring that to the teachers. As AI is growing, so are the people who are coming up with these. So it's definitely on our minds.
Good.
Anybody have any other questions? Rudy, history.
From a school AI perspective, how long is the contract and was this vetted by the state? I'm sorry, I missed that first part. It was a little muffled when you guys started talking.
Yeah, it is. That's one of, there's 5 that were vetted fully by the state, and actually School AI and Magic School were the 2 that were most utilized in the state pilot. And so those became and purchased most popular. They not only do they pass Connecticut's privacy policy, they just got 2 more privacy certifications that are very, very committed to student privacy. We signed a 1-year contract and we got 10% off. So we get a great deal this year. And then we have funding to have it again next year, but we are only signing 1-year contracts because, again, things are changing and we know that they are changing.
Right. And I'm assuming school AI keeps up with state legislation.
Oh, the important piece is, I think, that School AI, and the reason we chose it is that particular platform was developed, one, with students in mind and how we teach it,
and then sort of pulled help for teacher support and things like that. But it also, it was created mostly by teachers, educators. Not one person that I spoke to or worked with at school, I was not at some point a classroom teacher. And that makes a big difference in how the platform works, functions for schools.
Okay, excellent. I appreciate that clarity, and I definitely appreciate the position I read. I think it's a wonderful position. So great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, that will bring us to an update on the proposed 26-27 budget. What?
All right, so I am going to pass out. I sent this to board members earlier today. It is a memo with an update from myself to the board. So again, I sent this out to the board members earlier today. I apologize for the late notification on it, but we actually just had changes that took place last Thursday at our insurance consortium meetings. So that's the reason why I wasn't able to get the memo out until this morning. But we did have a meeting last Thursday of the insurance consortium. We met to establish the rate increase for next year. We had been at a 15% increase. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a 21% increase, which we had some forewarning about. I think we found out about 3 or 4 days beforehand that it potentially could go up to 21%. The reason it went from 15 to 21, we were expecting a little bit of an increase due to just claims. As we get more updated claims, we usually will see either upswings or downswings, usually downswings in premium costs, but unfortunately it was trending upwards. The primary driver for the significant percentage increase was the fact that we ended up having an increase to our stop loss contract with Anthem, which caps our consortium's financial liability for individual members' high claims. So because of that, we are now have the 21% increase, which equates to $193,424 over our current budget. Thank you. We did schedule a special meeting of the consortium next Thursday to look at the possibility of reducing from that 21%. We're not quite sure if we're going to be able to or not, but there's the possibility that we will, and we're really trying to extend setting it permanently for next year as long as possible, because the longer we wait, the better opportunity is for that decrease to potentially exist. We are adding a new consortium member. Right now, the consortium exists of the 3 towns and the 3 boards of education from each town, RHAM, as well as AHM. So those have been the consortium members, but we actually, because of the fact that our consortium has been run so well, and which a lot of school districts are having issues with insurance at this point, we actually have been approached by a few different entities. And East Hampton approached us a few months ago. We used our insurance consultant to analyze claims that East Hampton has and make a determination and recommendation to the consortium whether it would be a good idea to add East Hampton or not. And ultimately, the recommendation was it was a solid financial decision for us to make to add them because it spreads that risk out. And they are a district that does not have significant claims. So we did vote to approve them at our March 12th meeting as well. So we do have a $193,000 increase. The good news is that, Eva and the business office, they've been working hard, as they always do during this period of time, to identify potential savings, things that we could either, reduce through, entering into contracts early, or just minor adjustments and changes that can be made. And they were able to identify an additional $138,782 in reductions from the initially proposed budget, which would bring that overall increase down to $54,642. And the impact of these changes would bring our proposed budget increase to a 3.30, which again, I feel that's pretty reasonable when you look at where the landscape of things currently are. It's still amongst the lowest in our area. And so attached to the memo are a couple of documents. Number one are some of the adjustments that we're looking at since we last discussed things with the board. The top of the spreadsheet shows a table with the adjustments that we would reduce, and it gives the dollar amount and a rationale for each one of those. One of the things that I'll point out is adding the leadership. Remember the last board meeting, you all wanted me to keep in the leadership training and the leadership equipment for that course, the health and phys ed class at the high school. So you asked us to keep that in the budget. And so we actually looked at our net favorable position, and we are in a good financial place to pay for those things out of our current year's budget. So we can take those things back out, which is obviously good. So it's about $22,000. And then there's other things as well in there that we can reduce as well. And then again, when compared to that health insurance increase, it shows the difference between the two being $54,642. The third document from what I just handed out is just the updated levy sheet. It shows our member town levy for each town for both the capital and the operating budget. And again, it shows our overall increase at a 3.30%. I can certainly take questions that board members might have, but again, where we currently are, we've only got a couple weeks left until we actually have to, you as a board on April 6th have to adopt the budget and or approve the budget and send it to referendum. But I feel like we're in a really good place right now when you consider where we initially started. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions online? Okay, just a reminder that Colin's going to be presenting the budget to the Hebron folks tomorrow at 7.
I believe the meeting starts at 7.
Starts at 7 and it's at the library.
And I did get some questions from members of the Hebron Board of Finance or Board of Selectmen, and in my responses that I sent back, I made sure I included the board on those responses. So you're aware of those communications. I have one more that I need to respond to. The day got away from me, so I'm going to work on finishing that tomorrow morning. I'll make sure I include the board members on that response as well.
So, the one thing I will mention, since you are going to go talk to me, but tomorrow, as I've already talked to it's Marlboro. Are looking at not just the comparison throughout the country, for the offset. So, even though that's not a valid budget comparison, it affects the levy, and so that's what some of the finance committee feel like putting your agenda to think about how you might talk with them about. We did last year.
Just remind them that we gave.
Well, that there is an offset, but it wasn't the budget lower, right? So what I'm hearing now, my town, is because if you actually look at the allocation, what comes to Marlboro, and I assume the other towns are going to feel this in one direction or another, is actually less than what the budget was the year before. That's because the change in the student enrollment. So just budget to budget, we're actually less in Marlboro now. But they're thinking we're more because they look at the offset.
Yeah. So, I mean, when
it's a conversation.
Yeah. So the one, I did it for Marlboro. I'm pretty confident because I had the data for Marlboro. And I certainly will do it with Hebron, where I have that table that shows here's where you were last year, here's where you are this year, and it shows a decrease.
Yes.
Last year, when there was also an offset included in it, I had a separate column in that same table that said, here's your operating, here's your capital, here's what your offset is, so here's what the total is.
Right.
I certainly try to highlight the fact that it's I mean, in the grand scheme of things, the Hebron's the toughest sell, for lack of a better term, because of the fact that the shift in enrollment has really impacted Hebron in a, in a way. I mean, that's kind of where we are.
Right.
So whereas Marlboro is seeing a decrease in their member town levy, Andover is certainly seeing a decrease in the member town levy. Hebron will not be seeing a decrease. And I think that is something that is not sitting well with people on the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, I think when I've got the Marlboro packet, I don't think the offset is it.
Because
right. So that's what. So they see a decrease, but if they look at numbers with the offset, they see an increase. That's the only thing. Okay. So when you do the dialogue, it's going to be an increase in Hebron no matter what.
Yeah.
Right. So
Okay, that will bring us to 10.6, a discussion and possible action regarding the recommended use of fiscal year 2025 current net favorable position. It's in closure 10.6.
I'm happy to not talk at this moment.
Okay, so as part of your enclosure, 10.6 is a one-page memo that highlights the items that we're asking for repurchase. So this is a transfer, so the full debits and credits are on this, the twos and the froms. That will highlight what we're trying to purchase. If the board approves this listing of $169,880, I will work with the department chairs, coordinators to ensure that these items get purchased so that they can get delivered and invoiced before June 30th, 2026. Are there any questions that the board may have at this time?
We'll make the motion to transfer $169,880 presented in the enclosure 10.6 to fund the costs of identified one-time purchase.
I'll second.
Okay, so that was Scott Soyet is the first and Jessica Hall is the second. Any other discussion on this?
So I have two questions. Will the impact of this, given our net position is 377 favorable, will this make it essentially 200,000?
Correct.
Okay. And the other question I had was, when we had a list of these reductions, $10,000 expenses for groundskeeping equipment, and that was included. Everything left off that list. So
Not left off the list. The department head actually has money in his own budget, so transfers not required.
oh, okay, good.
Any other questions on this? Kirsten, are you good?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You were lighting up on the board. I just wanted to make sure.
Just because I changed my mic to on.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Okay, and that motion passes. All right, that brings us to 10.7. The discussion and possible action related to the healthy food certification.
Okay, so this is an annual healthy food certification that requires board action. And I'm doing a caveat here. So whoever decides to read the motion has to be read verbatim, because we've had in the past that the motion has not been read verbatim. So it goes back to the board and the board has to redo it. So basically, if we pass or if we accept, if the board accepts the healthy food certification, we receive money, additional funds for the healthy food that we're supposed to serve. The first healthy food option choice is where the board is making the decision to do so. Then there's exemptions for food and beverages for 30 minutes after the close of business that can be sold at events during the school. So whether it's the musical, sporting event, whatever the case may be, that they can sell food that is not considered healthy. Okay, questions?
Do we have a motion pursuant to CGS section 10-21-5F, the Regional School District 8 BOE certifies that all food items offered for sale to students in the schools under its jurisdiction and not exempted from the Connecticut Nutrition Standards published by the Connecticut State Department of Education will comply with the Connecticut Nutrition Standards during the period of July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2027. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations and groups.
Wow, well done.
So moved.
Okay. Joe Golphin is one. Our first, do we have a second?
Second.
Second is Rudy Del Fiore. Any other discussion on that? Please don't ask me to read it again. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Okay. Just do you want me to just jump into the next one? Or?
Sure.
Okay. Then. The recommended motion is the Regional School District 8 BOE will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutrition standards and beverages not listed in section 10-221Q of the Connecticut General Statutes, provided that the following conditions are met. 1, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. 2, the sale is at the location of the event. And 3, the food and beverage items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event is an occurrence that involves soccer games, school plays. Did I do that right? An event is an occurrence that involves more than just a regularly scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. For example, soccer games, school plays, and interscholastic debates are events, but soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. The regular school day is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location means where the event is being held and must be the same place as the food and beverage sales. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Scott Zoya is the first. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second is Jessica Hall. Any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? The motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Those over with.
Well, there's 3 in the memo.
There, but they combined the 2 together.
Oh, good.
I think they rethought the position on making people read it 3 times.
Yeah, good.
That brings us to 10.8, review of indoor air quality reports.
At this time, I will turn it over to Mr. Schlaylock.
Hi there. So this memo serves as a notice of compliance that we conducted our annual required state indoor air quality inspection of both of the buildings. The reports, which we do in-house, are posted on the website online for everyone to review. This is not to be confused with the 5-year review that was publicly, not publicly, but that we have to do every 5 years, that we hire like an outside company to come in and do. That report will be due in 29. Through the annual inspection that we did, it took a couple months. There were no huge deficiencies that we found. Anything that we did found, we addressed during the review with our HVAC contractor. And if anybody has any questions or want to know more details, I'm happy to answer.
I'd say that's a lot of checklists.
So that's why it's online, because it's literally like the HVAC review. Each HVAC unit's 5 pages long of checks, in, like yes, no, not applicable. And it's like 200 and something pages of paper that has to be done every year.
So, but is there any way where it says the air is good?
How do we the air is improvably bad? I think it's what it says.
We're checking, we're confirming that the coils are clean, that your drain pans are not all rusty and moldy, and we're checking making sure the filters were dated and changed quarterly like they're supposed to be. This is like something, not only is it's like checks and balances for the HVAC contractor who's doing the PM as well, making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. But it also involves like walking the entire building and checking closets and storage rooms and making sure that ceiling tiles are not falling down and moldy and that there's active leaks somewhere. So it's a good review. It's just very, very time consuming and takes a lot of people to conduct it.
All right. Anyone have any other questions for Mike? Thank you, Mike.
No problem.
10.9 is the first readings of the policies.
Yeah, so there's two policies for consideration for updating. The first one is 9141, which is the board bylaw on committees. This is something that I discussed at our last board meeting. So this basically takes our 5 existing policies, shrinks them down to really just 3. So we're combining policy, program together, and then facilities and finance together, and then we're maintaining negotiations as a separate one that is really just comes together as needed for the negotiations process. And then the only other change in it is just having the part about the co-chairs. And you know what, did we not get the page that was revised? We added something in there, Scott, right, about a quorum being half the board. More than half, I apologize.
This one?
Yes. Basically, the core. I think did we add language about the quorum being more than half?
Well, I don't think we did because we found it elsewhere.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Then we had conversations about it.
Yeah,
it's hard to keep it all straight. So,
do we have an effective date?
Once this policy gets approved, presumably at the next meeting, then Heather can reshuffle the committees and.
So the plan is to do it for this year, not right now, as opposed to waiting until.
I mean, we never really talked about that prior. I mean, we could certainly wait. We could certainly hold off. It doesn't really make a difference.
It just isn't.
Yeah. I mean, typically we do a first read 1 month, a second read the next month, so it would really go into effect. Perfect. Yeah. The next policy, it just was easier to just X out everything. It's currently it's called school lunch, but really in effect it's more than just school lunch. It actually talks about meal charging, so we changed the name of it to meal charging, and we really just redlined everything out of the old policy because there was so many changes to it. The policy language that we're recommending, we don't want to change it for 2 reasons. Number one, it is recommended language based off of the updates from Shipman and Goodwin. And then the other piece is that we also added language beyond what Shipman and Goodwin recommends, but we needed to add because we just went through the process of having an audit done of our school our meal program. Thank you. And so basically the updated language is all in black font. And again, it has a combination of Shipman language plus language that was approved by the state auditor who came in and looked at did a comprehensive audit of our school lunch program. And we wanted to make sure we didn't see any language that was necessary. So we can certainly take any questions on either of those, but if there are not any, it would go to the second reading and go into the people meeting.
Anybody have any questions online? Okay, that brings us to financials.
All right, so 10.10A in your handouts is the enclosure. So as Mr. Golfin noted, the current net favorable position was $376,526, but after doing the pre-purchase transfers, that will reduce that dollar amount slightly. We did receive our first payment for excess costs in the amount of $299,925. Capital improvement in the reserve for general education fund. There are currently no outstanding projects that are being worked on. And pupil services department, after every IEP meeting, is adjusting POs either up or down based on whatever the students' needs on how they have changed or are changing. Are there any questions that the board may have?
Just one. The amount received for excess costs, you said that it had shifted. Is that higher or lower than we expected?
So that's what we're supposed to be. So this year we're actually getting what we're supposed to be getting, where we haven't gotten that in the past. So, but that is a moving target because as our children, it gets tied to the high cost special ed kids. So if they change for any reason, our number either goes down or up. And again, March 1st was the last day to claim any of those students, because there's reporting that's done 3 times a year. It has to be done December 31st, March 1st, and then June, by the end of June 30th. And that's how our payments get scheduled to us, I guess, or calculated out for us.
Right, I just saw that the things had changed. I can't,
Okay, sorry.
But then, no, I just, we were expecting the 299, 925 or whatever.
So no, we were expecting a little bit more because we had a few students that had more costs to them. That unfortunately costs, yeah. Which is good for the students.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword. That's the
Okay, so it was down. I just couldn't tell. I knew it was adjusted from something. I couldn't tell which direction.
Yeah.
So are you saying then that student costs were down, which is good for these students, but it's still above our threshold? So what we're spending has changed, just reversely.
Correct.
And do we see that extra cost somewhere else? In other words, dropping?
No, not necessarily. It could. So again, so if someone is considered a high special ed need student, either they move out of district, then yes, you will see that money come back. If we have to change a placement for it, and the placement is a little bit less, transportation services might be less, whatever the case may be, yes, you will see that in the associated expenditure account.
Well, we don't have a way. So what I'm getting at,
I can't identify students, so no, you can't.
No. I'm not talking. I'm talking totally numbers here. So, for example, suppose the student cost 150,000, and that was in our budget, and we expected to get back. I'll make the number 55,000.
Yeah.
Right. But now the student actually only costs 125. Good news, right? So we had budgeted to spend 150 and get 55 back. Now we're only spending 125 and getting 30 back.
But
I see the reduction of what we're getting back there.
No, right.
I don't see the reduction of the spend.
Well,
it's in here somewhere. Yeah. It's in here.
Yeah.
It's in the soup.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if it was being netted somehow.
It is. Any additional questions? All right, hearing none, we're going to go to 10.10B, which is the food service monthly sale and expenditure report for February 2026. So at the end of February, we realized a net loss of $91,976. However, the loss for February was only $5,509. There were 2 snowstorms that contributed to this loss since there were no sales those days. And in addition, we had through February 25th through February 27th, the schools that were chosen for our administrative and procurement reviews were RHAM High School and Marlboro Elementary School. This is a very comprehensive review that is done based on what we serve for meals, the menus, how we purchase those meals, and lots of other fun things that they ask questions of and that we stack paper. We like to kill trees. So we had lots of paper for them to go through. So they basically, so after everything was said and done, we had a very good review, but there were some areas that corrective action needed to take place. One of those being the meal charging policy to make sure that we eliminated any shaming language and some other changes that they would like to have seen, and to ensure that we have established a school food authority, where the school food authority advisory panel involving parents and students. And so that meeting is actually set to take place, I believe, March 18th. And most or all of the corrective actions outside of the policy update needs to be uploaded to the state by April 1st. Are there any questions that the board may have? Okay, so hearing none, 10.10C is the student activity report for the high school and the middle school, the accounts balance with the bank. Are there any questions that the board may have on that? Hearing none, I wasn't sure. 10.10D is the short-term investment fund account. So for the end of February, we reinvested dividends of $558.08. Does the board have any questions on that? Okay, so hearing none. 10.10E. This is our regularly scheduled budget appropriation transfer. So the transfers here come from January and February. The total transfers, the 20 journal entries that are up for review are total $285,223.78. And this does require board action, but are there any questions that the board may have at this time?
Do we have a recommended motion to approve the budget appropriation transfers in the amount of $285,223.78 as presented at the Board of Ed meeting, at the Board of Education meeting? Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Scott Soyette, a second. Lisa Towdy. Any other questions for Ava on this or discussion?
So the entries 110 and 112, were those part of 10.6 or what happened with those?
So our AED, so the original 800,000 that was removed from the budget, Mr. Schlehofer had noted in the budget that the AEDs needed to be replaced. So there were 6 campus-wide AEDs that needed to be replaced. And because of the need for those, because they only last so many years.
What's the
Defibrillator.
Oh, the shot. Yeah. Okay.
So it's more of a safety issue. Yeah. So that's why we let them go through. And so they actually got replaced now.
Yeah. Exactly.
And the old ones got recycled out. The 18,000 we discussed with the facilities. Yeah, because it has to be done, and that was going to be part of next year's budget, but
We had to move it.
right.
Yep.
Any other questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Okay,
thank you.
That brings us to the calendar of events on the student discipline report.
So for the high school, we've got a spring concert coming up on Wednesday night at 7:00. Highly encourage people to come if you are able to. It's always a great show. And then what we do is the following morning, we will have our students from our elementary school districts come and visit, and they actually get to watch that performance from the previous night. It's a great way to encourage students in the elementary levels to get involved with the music programs at the elementary school, hoping that we can continue to build our program here. On the 27th of March is going to be the AHM Kids versus Scouts basketball game. It's something they do annually. It's great. They have state and local police come out and play against students here in the district. It's a great way to get students, just interacting in a very positive way with local law enforcement. We do have our board public budget meeting on April the 6th, and that'll be followed by the special meeting for the board, hopefully to adopt our budget for next year. And upcoming soon is spring break as well, which I think we are all collectively excited about. At the middle school, we do have, as we talked about earlier with Miss Wilson, we do have the coffee house at 6:00 on April 1st. Again, I would highly encourage board members to come to that if they are able. We will be welcoming our incoming 7th grade students from the elementary districts who will come in and spend some time with us and our middle school administration for their orientation. And then the next day is when the parents are able to come and have their orientation. And that concludes my upcoming events. And then just the discipline data is in the last couple of pages of our board packet. Concludes my report.
Okay, if there's any questions? We have a motion to adjourn.
Still moved.
Mike Bollier, second is Scott Soyette. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We're good.